Psalm 23 from the New Revised Standard Version. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. And the Gospel is from John 10, verses 1 to 10. Very truly I tell you, anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the gate, but climbs in by another way, is a thief and a bandit. The one who enters the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will not follow a stranger, but they will run from him because they do not know the voice of strangers. Jesus used this figure of speech with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. So again Jesus said to them, Very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they might have life and have it abundantly. So I'll go through my sermon pretty much as I delivered it in church. Perhaps you have one or two people in your life who at certain points when it really counts, manage to find you right where you are. And I think Psalm 23 is like that. It's as reliable as a trusted friend who will always come alongside us in the challenging circumstances of life. And we all know those times. Psalm 23 is read in many settings, isn't it? On state occasions, I guess it will be at the coronation, on Anzac Day, and of course at funerals. Even a family that does not see itself as belonging to a particular faith will choose the Lord as my shepherd to express that deep human need for belonging, connectedness, and living with a sense of meaning. Thanks be to God for the insights gifted to us in this gem of the Hebrew Bible. I acknowledged our dear Zion Hill friends because we knew this morning that they are grieving, and we brought condolences to them in the dark valley of their grief. When we are hurting and sad, it can sometimes feel as though everything is up in the air. We cannot tell what will happen next, nor even what we want to happen. And so maybe you could be feeling like that today, and if you are, I ask you to think about this. In the Hebrew language, the recognition for you are with me in Psalm 23 is the very heart of the psalm. Those words, for you are with me, are literally the center of the psalm. 26 words before it, 26 words come after that phrasing. And within a time of loss, a sense of relationship brings us some reassurance. For you are with me. Those words are about relationship. Guiding, calming, comforting, protecting, providing abundantly, accepting and accommodating. The multifaceted law that is working always we name God. God moves still, even when we are grieving. The psalm acknowledges the reality of sorrow, describing it as a state experienced physically. We can find ourselves in the valley of darkness. We've previously known the green pastures and still waters and may hope to do so again. Life is like that. Back and forth we go. And wherever we are, there is God, ever preparing the way back into nurture, acceptance and reconnection, communion, holistic, all-including. In John's Gospel, we hear that Jesus uses a figure of speech. The details about the gate and the sheep and the shepherd and the sheepfold and the thieves and the bandits and the strangers all help to convey his meaning. What Jesus is talking about is the relationship-based kind of seeing that opens the way into living life fully. It's clear that we have to work at this. There aren't any shortcuts as though we could hop over the fence, hop over the wall of whatever is shutting us in. Over the fence would be like our taking something from life, stealing all that our life could be. When what Jesus invites us to do is to listen to the shepherd within, who will open the gate that we might have life and have it abundantly. If you think this is all a bit hard to follow, it's because it's poetic writing designed to make us do the heart work of understanding what Jesus was all about. The reading from John, by the way, comes straight after the healing of the blind man who receives sight. So what could we come to see? Perhaps that when we are deep in sadness, we still have a choice to let the gate or the door open for ourselves. By listening to the shepherd and following the voice within as it leads us forward, we may unlock our hearts to the fullness of life. We know from experience and from the lessons of history that people who are afraid sometimes listen to the voices that call for violence or retribution, or for groups within society to be denied their human rights. When we are scared, the concern for self-preservation can fuel some unhealthy behaviours, can't it? We get angry, lash out, making all sorts of excuses as we exit the paths of righteousness. That is stealing from life, not affirming it. In this season of Easter, friends, we celebrate that Christ is risen, and people in church said, "He is risen indeed." You know, once humans started to evolve the ability to think abstractly, they began worrying about death. Such fear can be intense and destabilizing. It steals our joy. Jesus, the pastor shepherd, showed us that life does not have to be defeated by fear of death, and that violence and retribution can be replaced by forgiveness. To be poetic about it, the doorway does not have to stay blocked by the stone. In John chapter 14, Jesus says, "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these." His intention, I believe, was to share ways into emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being, that others and we might learn to live integrated or holistic, not divided lives. So that when we're under pressure, we do not follow the lead of a stranger and that we let our knee-jerk responses take us to unwelcome places, causing us to ask, "Whatever happened? Why did I do that? It wasn't the real me on that power trip. I feel terrible." No. The pastoral truth within us, the shepherd calling and leading always, is our true self, our life-affirming self, our abiding relationship with and in God, the God who is ever working, the God who restores my soul, as the psalmist says. Our true self, guided, comforted, protected, provided for, accepted, and at home in the house of the Lord forever. And so today, in a moment of silence, we tried envisaging God's presence accepting us now. Perhaps you could try that. Just let God's presence accept you. And so if we felt embraced, bless us. If we seem to find it difficult to reconnect into the life source that sustains us, bless us also. God is, Are we there yet? Well, maybe not, but God is there, always. The poetry of the psalm tells us that the table is being prepared all the time. The welcome awaits us always. Grace abundant never wanes. In John Wesley's famous words, the best of all is, God is with us. Friends, living fully is the choice we are making at any time and under all circumstances, including in solemn and respectful mourning, that goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives. That is the dream our loved ones always had for us, have for us still. It's the big dream God invites us into. In the middle of the sermon, I showed a picture of a cross that was not actually made by humans. It was fused together from big metal girders being joined when the Twin Towers collapsed in the 9/11 incident, way back in 2001. I asked the congregation if anybody remembered 2001, and they said they did. I thought they were too young, but they did remember. Well, just to repeat, no human made this cross. Big pieces of metal came together, and the rescue workers who found these bits of metal joined together in this way thought it was a miracle that a cross had been made, and it's on public display now. It's part of the commemoration of the 9/11 events. Of course, some anti-faith groups went to court to try not to have the cross displayed in public, but they were unsuccessful. Then I showed another picture, and here I think is the real miracle. This is a picture of St. Paul's Chapel. It's quite a lovely old church, which is very adjacent to where those Twin Towers were. George Washington worshipped there. I asked the congregation, did anybody go to school with George Washington? Apparently nobody did. But the interesting thing to know is that in the 1970s, when those Twin Towers were being built, the minister of that church said, the people in those offices are going to need somewhere to eat their lunch. Let's open a new gate in the wall and let people come into the churchyard at lunchtime. And so that's what they did. When the 9/11 attack happened, the towers came down. That church didn't close. Rescue workers operated from there. People came there to find their loved ones. It was open always. And I think that's an example of the table being prepared. The table being prepared always. The gate being opened always. That far-sightedness to create some space that then could be used for works of mercy at a time of great need. Very, very powerful. I think that's a real miracle. So the Psalm and the Good Shepherd reading today remind us that we are not alone, that always there are forces working for our good, that we might have life and have it abundantly. So it is. Thanks be to God. Amen. And thank you for listening.